Hello everyone, it's your boy Rage, and in this video, I'll be going over who actually was or is the strongest Espada. Before I get into the video, I want to say if you guys can please leave a like on the video, I appreciate every little support I get. Subscribe to me if you like Bleach. Thank you guys for all the support. I'm over 200 subs. Thank you guys very much, and to the video. A small disclaimer before the video. I want to put this out there before people get on my head about novel feats and statements. I will not include that in this video. I am currently rereading the Can't Fear Your Own World novel. I plan to include things from the novels, but that was under the idea that I would be done by now. I'm currently on the second book. I'm on the part where Tokinara just sent Hikone to go scrap with Mayuri and his zombie unit, Ginjo and his buddies, along with Grimjow. As I'm writing this script, I'm at this part, which should be a few days before the video comes out. Again, I'm not including the novels in this video. It's just specifically for people who don't really know the novels or don't want to know about them and don't think they're canon. Now, to the video. When entering the Arrancar arc, we are met with not only what Aizen's full intentions are when it comes to becoming quote unquote God or a transcendent being, but we are introduced to a group of people called the Espada, 10 special Arrancars strong enough to rival even captain class characters, so much so that the likes of Vasto Lord class Hollows could be a huge threat to the Soul Society, stating to surpass captain class and gain even more power when they evolve into Arrancars. These Espada are given numbers that indicate not only how strong they are, but the data book says they are ranked based on their killing ability and their capabilities as a fighter. With all that, you would think the strongest Espada would be obvious, but we get Espada with secret forms, secret rankings, along with others just having crazy hacks abilities. I won't be going over all the Espada, just the top 4, with Yami along with Grimjow and Neliel, since they both are the only Espada to make it past the arc, along with Hollybell. I don't think anyone is going to argue Espadas like Noritora is the strongest for his hero, or Zomari for his speed, so I don't think I need to go into it that deep. The top 4 Espada can be implied to be on a whole other tier of power compared to their comrades that rank below the 4th. Any Espada with a rank of 4 or higher are forbidden to perform a sword release under Las Noches. The top 4 are the only ones confirmed to be Vasta Lorde class before they become a Arrancar, at least in the manga and anime. Vasta Lord class being said to surpass the power of captains, and Toshiro even said if Aizen had at least 10 and stormed the Serite, Aizen would decimate the Soul Society. If we take a look at the top 4, they seem to surpass captain class. You have Ichigo getting bullied by Ukiura in his first release, then has a second release to become even stronger. You have Hollybell easily outclassing Toshiro when it comes to power, then being able to take on not only him, but 2 other Vizards who are captain class, at least Lisa. You have Baragon, stated to not be able to be touched by anyone in the Gote 13. Combine that with Respira, one of the most broken abilities in Bleach. We have Stark fighting 2 high-class captains who are stated to be transcendent when working together. Aizen taking the top 3 with him to take on the Gote 13 and left Ukiura in charge of Hueco The top 3 are all stated to be so close in power to the point they can't even tell who's the strongest even after they flex their power. You can possibly include Ukiura relative to them as well, as we see even Ichigo, who getting stronger throughout his battles in Hueco was only able to press base Ukiura using holification, and even then, the gap in power wasn't that big. Ukiura was able to react to him, even blitzing him at one point. Let's go over these Espada's feats, respectively, and then rank them. I will have 2 different rankings, one where I include all the Espada I would be talking about, with the current Grimjow, Neliel, and Hollybell, and one with who is the current strongest, with just Grimjow, Neliel, and Hollybell. I won't be talking about Grimmjow's feats in Huecamundo, at least when it comes to power, due to the fact he isn't all that impressive when you look at the bigger scope of things. If I have a tier list of this arc alone, based on power, he would probably be C tier. If we look at what most people call the weaker captains, at least in this point in the story, Toshiro, Soifone, and Kumamura, you could argue these characters would beat Grimmjow in a fight. You have Toshiro, who fought the third Espada, who was far stronger than him. He even won against a character who is the same, if not a bit weaker than Grimmjow, this character being Loopy. You have Komamura, who fought someone like Tozen, who stated to surpass all the Espada in power, and Komamura was able to fight pretty well against him, at least before his resurrection. You have Soifone, who you could argue is faster than Norichi based on their battle, and has mastered Shunko. She has her Bankai, which was able to blow up parts of Bargon's body, a Bankai that was far weaker than her normal one and was halfway rotted away, but you can get where I'm getting at. The same can be said about Neliel at this point in the story. Granted, when we see her in Huecamundo, she's not 100%, and she's gradually getting weaker in her battle against Noritora. You can say she isn't on the level of Holybell since she released her sword without the knowledge of not being able to do so within Las Noches. You could say Neliel knew she wasn't strong enough to cause damage to Las Noches. As we know, spiritual pressure is leaking out of her head. She should know this as well, but no matter how you look at it, the result is the same. At this point in time, she's in between Noritora and Ukiura. Not quite as strong as Ukiura, but not quite as weak as Noritora either. If we take a look at Grimmjow and Neliel in the Thousand Year Blood War, they don't really have any big feats. Grimmjow at most was hyped up by Askin and could punch through Askin while he was in his holy form and while Grimmjow was in his released state, which probably isn't all that impressive since his main weakness against his ability is physical type characters, and Askin doesn't have any crazy durability feats, and Askin was distracted as well. Grimmjow also has this weird ability where he can turn his hand black and maybe amp his attack power or range. We don't get an explanation for this, but the fans have come up with it, just him being able to use or form parts of his body into his release. This isn't what he did. We see another character do something just like this, and that's Vasto Ichigo. You probably don't know what I'm talking about if you haven't read the fight and only watched it, but when Ichigo stops Ukiura's Alonzo with his bare hand, he gains black claws, similar to what Grimmjow did to his hand, except he just did it to his fingertips, adding claws to them, whereas in the anime he already has the claws on his hand. We don't know what the specifics are of this ability, only Grimmjow and Vasto Ichigo have it, but from what we can gather, it either adds to their power or gives them a better AP, maybe even both. I've seen people say Grimmjow has gotten around Vasto Ichigo because he can use it, which isn't inconsistent when it comes to power scaling if we just used manga and anime only. You can argue that Vasto Ichigo's power is average during the Thousand Year Blood War. You got mid-tier Quincy's being able to force true Shikai Ichigo flying through the Soul Society and being able to get close to him to almost get a headshot on him before he notices. Keep in mind, they are in base, Shikai Ichigo being as strong, if not stronger than Dongai. Now with Nell, she even has less than Grimmjow. She has two things you can scale her off of. One is the fact she thinks she could beat Grimmjow, and the fact Kisuke trusted her to be able to save himself, Grimmjow, Yorichi, and her brother. That being said, her saying she could beat Grimmjow or thinks she can kinda disproves Grimmjow being on the level of Vasto, unless you think characters like Neliel and Holybell are on that level as well, which there isn't any evidence of. The highest we can place Neliel is on par with someone like Holybell, which don't worry, I'll get to her soon, but saying that isn't much either, since none of these three do anything overall impressive or shows that they gotten stronger. So far we have Grimmjow either gaining 3 whole ranks stronger, which is pretty impressive, or on this level or around Vasto Ichigo, which might be a stretch. We have Nell, who at most can be put on the same level as Hollybell, which is being very generous for her since she isn't shown to be training. She's definitely gotten stronger since every character gets stronger from every battle they are in, but we still don't know how much stronger. Hollybell is an unfortunate character in a way. People often write her off as being unimpressive in battle when we compare her to the other 2 Espadas there in Fake Harakura Town, and it's not like it's undeserved. Personally, I think someone like Baragon falls even more flat. If we look at the cards all 3 Espada were dealt, Baragon is probably the most disappointing character out of these 3. Baragon has the best hand. Baragon had the power, the hacks, and could counter anything thrown at him by Soifone. It's like playing a fighting game and you could counter all your opponent's moves and not get hit a single time and somehow you still lose. At least with Hollybell, you could say that she was outclassed in techniques or that she made a wrong decision from what we see in the anime. But to get back to Hollybell, she's seen to outclass Toshiro when it comes to raw power. We see her force Toshiro into Bankai while in base. Her resurrection just amps her even more, to the point Toshiro had to use an ice clone and was still surprised how strong she was. If we take a look at the battle between Hollybell and Toshiro, she doesn't take a single fatal blow until Aizen shows up. Even after coming out of Toshiro's strongest technique, or at least at the time, and taking on Toshiro with 2 Vizards, one of them arguable to be captain level, she was still doing pretty well and didn't seem to be exhausted or overwhelmed. You could actually argue Hollybell could have countered this technique with one of her own, which I'm not going to try to say, but it should be on the screen. In the anime, it's kind of implied she could have melted the ice. Toshiro doesn't say she can't, or that it's too late. She decided to use Cascada first instead of her ice melting technique. Baragon is one of the most dangerous Espada, not just having crazy power, but having crazy hacks alongside his power as well. Ranked second strongest out of all the Espada. In base, Baragon has the ability to slow down a person's movements when they get near him. With just a touch, he's able to rot your bones. He's probably able to slow down your perception or your reaction time with the way he blitzes or gets the drop on Soifone. In his release, his power just gets amped even more. Now he doesn't have to touch you, but he's able to use Raspira, which is a purple cloud that ages anything it touches. Not only that, but he has a field around him that's made of Raspira. I don't think I need to talk about base Yami since he's weak. His rank should speak for itself. Not only that, but he doesn't have any good feats. We can say that base Yami is pretty durable by the way Yorichi is injured after punching Yami, and Toshiro wouldn't be able to hurt him in base. All that just speaks to his hero being the second hardest, but keep in mind, it's kinda inconsistent as we see Ichigo casually cut off Yami's arm. Yami in his first release is shown and stated to surpass every Espada, with his rank going from 10 to 0. Yami makes the claim that he's stronger than Grimmjow, Noritora, and Ukiura combined. This statement should be true since Ichigo, who has seen and experienced these 3 in battle, didn't deny this statement. This Ichigo was able to sense someone like Crystallized Aizen and just got done fighting Ukiura in his second release. Yami, just like Ukiura, has a weird second release. We don't really know how much stronger or if he gains any new abilities. When we next see him after he transforms, he's on the floor dying, but he was at least able to inflict fatal wounds to Kenpachi and Byakuya. Up next we have Ukiura. Ukiura is brought up to be the strongest Espada due to his second release. His spiritual pressure is so great that Uryu says it's like an ocean above the sky. Having Lanza del Relampago, which has been scaled to be able to destroy states or even small countries, his high speed regeneration that surpasses his power, being able to heal everything but his organs and brain. He's one of the few characters to actually kill and defeat Ichigo multiple times casually, at least before Vasto. I'm not going to talk about Ukiura versus Vasto, since it doesn't really improve on Ukiura's power or ranking. Vasto is just on a complete new level. Stark, the number one Espada, so strong he was able to become a natural born Arrancar without the Hogyoku. He's able to take on the likes of Shunsui and Ukitake, someone who were praised by Yamamoto and stated to be transcendent. He almost forced Shunsui to use Bankai if Ukitake didn't step in. The databooks say he could fire an infinite amount of Seros, and he himself saying he could fire 1,000 Seros at once. He proceeds to fight two Captain class Vizards, who you could argue are above Shikai Shunsui when they have their mask on. Stark having the ability to split his soul or rip pieces of his soul and use them as weapons, as we see with the wolves and the swords he makes. We don't know the extent of this ability, since he seems to be able to use it even after Lilynet dies, at least in the manga. In the anime it's a different story. We also don't know if there's a limit, since Stark tells Lilynet they can't overdo it. I assume what he meant by this is it's like a turn in a shooting game type thing. To get to how strong they are, they're strong enough to blow away Love and Rose's mask with only a few wolves. At least in the manga, the anime made Love and Rose seem stronger to the point it almost took all of Stark's wolves to blow the mask away or blow the mask off. Keep in mind, in the anime, only a few wolves would be enough to kill Shunsui, and says if it wasn't for him seeing how the attack worked against Love and Rose, he would be dead. I plan on going more in depth about the Espada when I do an individual video about how strong they are and their weaknesses. To get to their ranking, I'll be placing all of them at their strongest, so I won't be going into it that much and ranking their individual forms. For the 7th spot, we have Neliel. Though she's one of the few Espada to survive, we don't see her do anything that shows she's gotten massively stronger over the 2+ years. From what we know, she's only able to stay in her older form for less than 5 minutes, so unless she's been doing 5 minutes of training every day for 2+ years, I doubt she should get a significant amp. You could say the gauntlets that Kisuke provided her with helped her get back to her original strength, but we don't know where that's at either. Maybe around Hollybell's level. The 6th spot would have to go to Hollybell. She's seen doing absolutely nothing when it comes down to the 1,000-Year Blood War. We know she lost to Yuha and his army, which isn't bad. I don't think anyone at this point in the story could have won, especially solo like Hollybell was doing. She gets praised by Baragon, someone who thinks everyone is an ant who looks down on them. At one point he asked her to be a part of his army before Aizen took over. She's clearly above Toshiro when it comes to power and speed, but being stronger than a character like Toshiro isn't really impressive when that's not his main specialty. For the 5th spot, I have to put Grimjow here. He's the only Espada out of the 3 that survived to show any sort of improvement. With everything he does in the 1,000-Year Blood War, it's kind of hard putting him any higher than this. The problem is Grimjow isn't king of Huecamundo, Hollybell is, and Neliel seems to think that she can beat him, so at max he went up a few ranks in power, which isn't bad, but I'll get to him later. 7 through 5 can be switched. I do believe they should be relative at least. Maybe you could say Grimjow's stronger because of the improvements he made. It doesn't really matter. They should all be relative at least. To get to number 4, this place should be Baragon. Baragon should still be above the Espada below, since there hasn't been anything to show otherwise. I'd say the only thing to ever hold him back is his personality, which, I mean, he can't really help. That's really who he is. The The third place would have to go to Stark. Being the number one Espada, people often see him as lacking when it comes to battle. The third spot would have to go to Stark. Being the number one Espada, people often see him as lacking when it came to his battle. I personally don't think that's the case. Taking on two high tier captains is pretty good, especially when these captains were seen as the second strongest to Yamamoto, at least at the time. I can't really see him higher than third place, especially when compared to the other two Espadas we have left. The second strongest Espada should go to Ukiura. Ukiura already on the level of the top three, then just getting a significant amp with his second release. He probably has the highest DC among the Espada with his Alonza, which he could use repeatedly. Combined with his overall power with his high speed regeneration, it's kind of crazy and hard to kill for any Espada lower than him. He even forced Ichigo to have to reach a whole new level of power just to win against him. And in first place, we got Yami. Yami is an interesting case, being that he doesn't have any feats putting him on the level of second release Ukiura, or even on the top 3. But he does have statements, such as the one I brought up before, him claiming he's stronger than Noritora, Grimmjow, and Ukiura combined. Now you could make the case that he doesn't know about Ukiura's second release, but Ichigo would. And Ichigo doesn't have the reaction that Yami being stronger is ridiculous. Now I've heard the claim that Ukiura is beyond the rankings because his number disappeared or isn't shown, so therefore he's the strongest. By that logic, Holybell is up there too since her rank isn't on her chest either. Yami is kinda like a monkey with a gun, dangerous but not really smart. You could argue Espada's ranked 5 and up could beat Yami in a fight. It's really hard to say he's undeniably the strongest, with his lack of abilities and fighting capabilities, just as things like him losing to base Kenpachi in his first release. But in just overall power, he should be above any Espada. You could argue people like Ukiura or Stark are faster, or Holybell is a better fighter, which isn't wrong or crazy to say. The current strongest is basically up to you of Holybell, Nelia, and Grimmjow. I can't really put them in a specific order, since there's not much to go on. I'd say the current strongest is Holybell, since she's the ruler of Huecamundo. If you think Grimmjow is vasto due to his weird ability, then him along with Nelia and Holybell would be top 3 in the order you see fit when compared to the other Espada. But other than that, that's the video and the ranking of the strongest Espada. I will be making a second part where I do include the novels, which does give us a better look at Holybell, Nelia, and Grimmjow, even Baragon. I'll probably include characters like Loopy, since him and Grimmjow have some kind of rivalry going on. Thank you for watching to the end. If you think I missed or overlooked anything, let me know down below. I'd love to hear who you think is and why. Other than that, thank you and have a rainy day.